Listen, I
And she
do what
should
I
have just
want, okay?
scheduled it.
I do what I want. That's how this whole
Yes,
show
queen.
works.
Yes, queen.
In 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast on Digital Stream Radio.
The stores are telling me it's back to school season, but Corona has me scared and confused. My district has a plan, but I'm not convinced. So stick around. Hey everyone, you're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast, a weekly show that chronicles the adventures of motherhood. I'm Candace. Now let's start the show. Hey!
Hey, 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 hey. Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Miss Candace. How are you?
I'm good. I want to start by shouting out to the people who have already been watching since we hit record and were lucky enough to be behind the scenes with us. So sometimes I'm still trying to figure things out. Doesn't matter, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you for sticking around today and for coming back week after week to listen to the Breezy Moms podcast. I love to be here, and I love that people are still coming to listen to us do what we do. So shout out to you guys. Thanks so much.
That's right. And if you're watching or if you're listening at some point, make sure that you share with your friends. We are available on Facebook Live, and we do the shows live. We're also available on Digital Stream Radio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher Radio. We're on Spotify and all those other amazing places where you can find podcasts. You can find us, and you can listen to us, and just take the journey with us. It's beautiful.
It is, and it's a good thing for me on a Thursday night. Like it still feels like a really good time during the week to recover from what was probably a batshit crazy week. Looking forward to tomorrow being Friday, although it's still, Fridays don't really mean anything to me because all the days are the same. But as of Friday, we get James back, right? Because then the weekend starts for him. So
that's right.
I hope that you guys have had a really good weekend. I've heard a few people say that it's been a really long weekend. Actually, for me, it's felt pretty quick. Like I couldn't believe how fast we were back on the air for this show. So I'm really happy to be here, and I hope you guys are doing okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. Today was a gorgeous day. No humidity.
I know.
The sun was bright in the sky. It was gorgeous.
Listen, I pulled out my hat. Okay,
I see that. I've got my scarf because I live in a refrigerator.
Yeah, we don't have that problem here. I'm feeling real Casablanca, although I do have on a sweater because I'm sitting like directly in front of the air conditioner. So it does make a difference for me, but only up here. Otherwise, we can't get the kids to put on clothes. They stay running around in just underwear. Inside the house, outside the house, they don't care.
I do that as an adult.
It's true.
When I'm home, I'm in my underwear and a tank top. It's funny. I'll tell you a very quick story before we jump into today's topic. Typically, sometimes I would go outside and pick up my mail or go check on my flowers, prune off any dead ones or whatever. And I'm in my underwear and my tank top. And my neighbor has a habit of anytime she sees me, she'll walk over because she wants to have a conversation. And half the time I'm in my underwear, but I don't know if she notices. I'm sure she does, but that's just who I am. Listen, I'm on my property. I'm in my house. I'm doing my own thing. And if you're going to walk over and interrupt my zen, you're going to get to see me in full-fledged, skin. It's beautiful.
I totally can, what's the word that I'm looking at? I'm stumbling on words today. I started drinking a little while ago. I'm not going to lie. I can relate. That's what I'm trying to say. I can relate because I often forget and just walk out my front door in my pajamas. But thankfully, I actually wear pajamas. Like I wear like old lady night dresses, and I'm really happy about that because usually at least it's like covered, right? You can tell it's a nightgown, but at least it's covered.
Well, mine
and again, I feel the same way. It's my house.
Yeah, mine look like shorts. They're like boxer shorts, but they're pretty. I mean, I have big thighs, so they're pretty big. So for me, it
gets worse in the summer.
Ain't nobody trying to like put pants up in the house. When the AC hasn't kicked in yet, because I have it on automatic timer, and I'm like, I'm not gonna touch you, even though I have solar and I haven't paid. anything in a hot minute.
That's
Um,
great. That's great.
but that's just me. And so, mailman, delivery guys, anybody that comes to my house, I'm in my underwear.
I love it. I love it.
My
It's your
local,
Corona uniform.
that is it. It's underwear and tank tops. I work all day in it. I live all day in it. I relax all day in it. My friends come over. I'm on them. That's it. So you get.
I get it. I get it. I get it. Well, let's just jump right in. You have a
Sure.
question for me?
Miss Candace, how are your amazing boys?
All right, so the boys are really good. They are really good. We got out for a good day trip this week. We went to the dinosaur park, which is in some town like close to New London. It's about an hour away from New Haven, and it is a trail with some, I think they're life size, right? Some life size dinosaur replicas along the
Really?
trail. In the woods.
Now,
And then
where
at
is
the end,
this?
it's outside of New London.
Oh,
So
okay.
it
So
was,
it is in Connecticut.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's in Connecticut and it was exit 77 on 95. And those numbers mean things to me more than the towns mean anything to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
like I don't remember what town is at exit 77, but exit 77 means something to me on 95. So it's in the direction of New London. It's about an hour away from New Haven. And it was totally a good time. And it was the first time that we have been there. And I have wanted to go for a long time with the boys, but an hour drive just has always felt like a really long time. The last few opportunities that we had, Emory was really small and by myself, I just can't handle that kind of long drive. So this is the first time we actually got to go. And it was amazing. It's a little bit pricey at almost $24 for kids and $25 or $26 for adults. So it's an investment of a trip, and you're not going to go. I mean, you're probably not going to go every week, but if you do get to go once a year, I think it's definitely worth it. You pack a nice lunch. The thing that I have learned, I hate that you have to learn this lesson for the second time, but the thing that I learned is you definitely want to have some kind of buggy on wheels. Like if your kids are in a stroller age, then you're fine. But my kids aren't, and I wish that I knew to bring some like a wagon or some. My friend actually, her kids are the same age, are 6, and she still has an old stroller, and so she brought that, which made it really helpful for us to be able to pile, because you bring lunch, you bring towels for the water, for the splash pad, snacks, all of that stuff. And you don't want to be carrying it around with you. You know what I mean? So you really have to have some kind of buggy, some kind of stroller situation because, right. Because I don't know if this is special for Corona or if this is always the case, but they told us that there was no reentry. So it's not like you could go walk around and then send someone out to go and get your towels and your snack when it's time to have lunch. So you had to bring everything all at once. So definitely pro tip, make sure you have something on wheels. Even a cooler on wheels would be helpful during the summertime. But it was absolutely a fantastic place. The walk around was really great. Bring some bug spray to make sure that you don't get eaten up by bugs, but it was totally a really good time. And then we ended at the splash pad. And now, to be fair, like this is during the time of Corona, and it still felt pretty safe. There weren't a lot of people there. I don't know if they would have capped attendance or, attendance, I guess is a decent phrase. Admission. Yeah. I don't know if they were capping admission at a certain amount. But there definitely on a Monday morning weren't that many people there. So we were free to kind of walk around and sort of manage our space. We all had our masks around our neck. And so if you got anywhere close to people, we would put our masks on. But for the most part, we were able to walk around with no mask because we couldn't see any people. So it was a really good thing. Right. And then at the end, you're at the splash pad. And I still don't know exactly how to manage, water. I think it's nice that it's a splash pad, so it's not like you're sitting, it's not standing water, it's running water. But the kids are definitely closer than you would like them to be. And
Yeah.
we just made sure to wash hands before we got there and wash hands when we were leaving, and pray for the best. But
Well,
the
the
kids
other
were
thing
so
too,
happy.
if it was a public park, chances are they were using public water, which
Mm-hmm.
contains chlorine.
Mm.
So it is
So it's probably
chlorinated.
okay.
So there is a possibility that that in itself could be a safety barrier
Cleansing.
between diseases or germs while the kids are getting wet, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you might be okay.
So,
But I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
Yeah, and neither am I. But this segues really nicely into what I want to talk about tonight, which is, it's going to continue to be a relevant thing to talk about, and I feel like it's okay for us to even just touch on it a little bit each week, because each week things change. You get new information. You're trying to manage, but
Right.
we are 4 or 5 months into pandemic living, and we're just trying to find ways to get the kids out of the house safely. Right. And so the first part of that trip was really safe because really nobody was around us. And then the second part in the splash pad, we're just like, we really hope that we're doing everything that we can to keep ourselves safe, we're keeping a distance from other people. We're making sure to wash hands, and my friend Carolyn was not about the public restroom. She brought a porta potty for her. She's got girls. And so she brought a porta potty, which was helpful. My kids just pee next to a tree. It's like totally not even a thing.
Nature.
I know it's really, I'd say like it is really good to have boys during this time, or really during the summertime, anytime, because when it's time to use the bath, especially pee, like you just pee, you just walk up to a tree or a bush and you pee, and there's like no problem at all. So I'm really grateful for boys in that sense. But she's got this bomb ass porta potty.
So you bring your bomb ass porta potty, and where do you go? Do you go into the bathroom to use the porta potty?
No, you use it use it by a tree. You still use it by a tree. So for the girls, we would set it up around, in a like kind of private area, in a secluded area, but it has little feet so that it's on the ground, but the seat is up off of the ground. And she brings bags that have like a absorbent material inside. And so the kids can sit on the porta potty and pee. Now, I should probably look into that, because it has now been probably several times that I have been outside and Emery goes, "Oh, Mom, I gotta poop." And I'm just like, I am not prepared for this. And so what I do, because I have boys and my boys are pretty easy, is I always have like a plastic bag and we just lay it on the grass, right? Thankfully, there's not a lot of people around. It's not a lot of people. And so then I hold Emery's hands and he leans back and he poops into the plastic bag. I have wipes. I wipe them up and then I throw the bag in the garbage. It's like not even a thing. I don't even think twice about it.
You just reminded me, like when I used to walk my babies, my doggies in New Haven, like I would always carry like a bag. Sort of kind of.
Well, you're supposed to, because you're supposed to clean up after them. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Wow.
You do what you have to.
You do what you gotta do. Hey, listen, when nature calls, it doesn't care that you're stuck in the middle of the woods.
Exactly.
It doesn't care that you don't have toilet paper. It doesn't care that, you have to now use potentially poison ivy to wipe your ass.
Right.
So
no, we always have wipes. And thankfully, Emery poops like a rocket. So like there isn't generally that much to have to wipe up. It's just like, pew.
There you go.
And then we're good. Good.
That means he's good fiber wise.
It's true. It's true.
That's awesome.
So that was our like big thing this week, was getting out to go to the dinosaur park, which was pretty cool. And then otherwise, we've just been spending a ton of time in our backyard. I'm going to give a plug to this new group that I've joined on Facebook. It's called Black Women Who Love Outdoor Spaces. And it's just like a bunch of people a bunch of Black women posting pictures of their backyards and like how they are updating it or sprucing it up or like cleaning it up and making it as another living space during Corona. And what's hilarious is that, or maybe not hilarious, but the fact is that we're all at home and we're all using our spaces way more than we ever have before because you don't have anywhere to go. This woman even said that she was using her vacation budget to redo her deck, right? Like, you're not going anywhere. You still have that money. I guess you might as well use it to put an investment in your house, right?
Good luck finding
and so,
wood.
Right. But still,
Nowhere.
the point is that we're using our houses more than I think our houses are even prepared for us to use them. And so I have been, with inspiration from this group and general, motivation because I'm here and I want to make a space that is livable for us all day, every day. I've just been really enjoying our backyard space and making it really nice for all of us. So I think the kids are out. James and the kids are outside right now, and it's 7:30. Right, like it's nice.
It was a gorgeous day, and it's hard to think that for some people in a matter of less than 30 days, they'll be going back to school. Right?
Yeah.
Like the state of Florida right now, schools, I believe, August 15th or so, they start going back.
In the South, they definitely start in August.
And I'm like, that's kind of crazy. It's like, it's still summer. Like for me, like
I think they get out a little earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. But still, like for me, July and August are really the summer months because June, you're still sort of kind of acclimating between the seasons. And like, I just think school should start in September right after Labor Day.
Right. Yeah, but you're from the Northeast, so we're just used to a different schedule.
I don't know. It's just weird.
But that's a really good segue into what I wanted to talk about tonight. And that is definitely the back to school plan. Our governor, made an announcement recently about back to school, and our district is working on their back to school plan. And I, luckily and thankfully was just able to have a good long conversation. I scheduled like an hour-long conversation with our school principal to get some real answers about what's going on at our school specifically, and then a little bit of, like insider information for the city at large, right? And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about this whole going back to school process, because as a parent, I still don't feel very like I'm confused. I'm dazed. I'm worried. I feel guilty. Like I have so many feelings going on inside of me right now about the plan for school that I got to get it out. And I also think that a lot of people are going through the same thing, because I've been getting calls and text messages. People are asking me if I'm sending my kids back to school. I'm like, I don't know. Are you? Like, I don't know what's going on.
It's a legitimate question, and people have a right to be fearful of what's to come. Because, you start looking at places like Texas and Florida and now California again, and some of like Georgia, for example, where the cases are exploding dramatically. What do you do in that situation? Do you open up schools anyway for the sake of giving parents a reprieve from having to educate their students at home
while working
through like a social or online format? Do we do that for the sake of sanity?
But what about safety?
Like this? But what about safety? Right? And what about the concerns of parents like yourself?
So let me start by giving just like a high level, review of what's happening here in our school, and kind of New Haven at large. And so this is just so that you know what's going on here. I don't know exactly what's happening in every district in Connecticut at all, or, across the country, but just to give you an idea of what's going on. So Connecticut is at the bottom right now of the list of, new corona cases. And so Connecticut, I think, is feeling pretty good about where they fall on the
On the
you know, in
spectrum,
the
I
scheme
believe.
of things, right? On the spectrum, in the scheme of things, we are at the bottom of the list of new corona cases and deaths, right? Like, I can't believe that's what we have to talk in terms of. And so we right now are at a low risk level. I think we're at level 3 or something like that. In terms of opening back up. So the governor is considering Connecticut low risk. Now, the number one thing is we don't have any walls, right? And to be like 100%, my sister, who's from New York, came to visit us a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she's from New York, and New York is not at the bottom of the list, right? But she lives in Upper Westchester, and the town that she lives in is pretty low. So we felt comfortable with her coming to visit us. But that is just an example of how Connecticut can have low numbers, but we don't have any walls, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts are the 3 states that have dropped significantly, and Rhode Island that continue to go on the downside.
On the downturn, right.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind that the other states that are still driving distance from us are not going down. So anyway, we're at a low risk. You know, we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. And so because of that, the plan for schools is to operate at low risk, which is we open up schools 5 days a week, all day, everybody. That is the current plan for schools come September. At least the current plan for New Haven schools come September. And so they are offering, so of course, my first thought was like, but what are you going to do if parents decide there's still a risk, the risk is still too great? And so what the city has decided is that they are going to open up, again, right now, based on our low risk status, they're going to open up 5 days a week, full day, full everything. But they're going to also offer distance learning to anyone who opts out of sending their kids to school. So if you decide that you don't want to send your kids to school, you won't be like quote unquote truant. You have that option. And then they are going to do live streaming of the classes so that, for instance, there will be kids who are in the classroom and then there'll be a video recording. So there'll also be kids at home watching the class at the same time. And so you can opt, you have 2 options. You can opt to send your kids to school full day every day, or you can opt to keep your kid home all day every day with distance learning. What you can do is if you decide to come in and then you don't feel comfortable, you can pull your kids out at any time, but you cannot come back in at any time. Right? Because of social distancing and quarantining and that sort of thing and exposure. So our principal said that you can opt in at the beginning of each marking period. That's what it's called at elementary school. So at the beginning of each marking period. So if you want to go in September, you can go. And if you don't, then you have to stay home until the next marking period starts in November. Does that make sense?
See, but that for me, I'm a little hesitant, and here's why. So
the whole
you're
thing
talking about
yeah,
bringing the entire staff, all of the students back, all on day one. You have an option to opt out to do distance learning from home, but how do you take a classroom of 30 and do social distancing when you can't operate at full capacity because you very well know that our schools and classrooms are not set up for that. They're not set up to have desks that are more than 6 feet apart.
And especially my kids are at the like pre-K and, preschool level. They are still in that communal, 5 kids at a table. The pre-K classroom is not even set up for individual kids. There are table rounds in the pre-K classroom that seat about 6 kids, 5 or 6 kids at each table round. They do not even have individual desks, right? So I think that they're assuming that several parents are going to keep their kids home. And because of that, they will have fewer kids in the school and be able to distance them accordingly.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean, to me, we don't even have a vaccine. Right. I could see if we had a vaccine and we can say, okay, the exposure at this point or the capability of this really gearing up and running rampant again is minimal when you have something that could circumvent that. We don't even
Mm-hmm.
have a vaccine, and we're talking about children. And now I want to actually point out that youth and kids, young kids, are right now the group of individuals that are least likely to get COVID,
Mm-hmm.
right? They haven't been exposed to it too much, but they do go outside and they do play. But there haven't been many cases reported in youngsters getting
Mm-hmm.
COVID-19. At least I don't think,
But
and I haven't heard.
so there haven't been many, but some of them, when they do get it, it's pretty bad, right?
And so that's the thing. And then think about
So it's scary.
the Petri dish
Mm-hmm.
theory that is a school, especially elementary school, where kids don't know the concept of don't touch your face, don't touch your eyes,
Don't touch each other. Don't touch
exactly.
each other.
And
We're
so,
trying to have a few social distance play dates, with one or two people, who have a similar, we talk about it as a similar risk profile, people who are mostly staying home. But although I did just say I was out at a park the other day, and the kids are just so happy to see each other after being away from each other that they're just hugging up and rolling around in the grass. They're just so happy to be together. I don't know how teachers are expected to keep them apart. Even if half the kids stay home and half of them stay at school, they are going to be, especially little kids, are going to be so excited to see each other and see anybody, right? Because they probably at home for a while. That it's going to be insane.
And for those who stay behind, right, now you have to let your child go to school, potentially bring a pathogen into the house, get you infected, and then all of a sudden you get sick. You or mom or dad or grandma, whoever is in your immediate family that lives in your household, and then you potentially lose someone. How do you deal with that, right? There are a lot of things. There are a lot of unanswered logistical questions right now on how, for example, teachers who are facing shortages, for example, in substitute teachers. If a teacher falls sick, how do you pick up the pieces and come in and take care of students while a teacher is recuperating? If they're
and does everybody have to be home? Does everybody have to stay home from that classroom?
Right.
And at the elementary school level, it's the same set of kids, right? But it's still a lot of kids in the elementary school class. But at the middle school level, it's by subject, right?
Yeah,
and so you've got kids
around.
that are shifting around. And so I don't think they really have an answer for that. The thing that stresses me out the most is because New Haven seems like ready to go back, right? It feels guilty for me either way as a parent. I feel guilty in sending my kids to school when I am not confident that everybody knows what they're doing or that everybody knows how to handle this thing, right? It feels like throwing my kids to the wolves after keeping them home for all this time. So like, what is the point of having kept them home all these months if I'm just going to push them back out and like feed them to the wolves in September? And then on the other hand, exactly. And then on the other hand, I carry this immense guilt of thinking that I am keeping them home when other people are sending their kids to school. And so my kids are losing out on the activities and the interaction and all of that social stuff when other people are risking, seem to think that the risk is low and so are sending their kids to school. And so then I feel guilty for holding on to mine too tight. Like maybe I'm holding on too tight when the risk is actually kind of low and I should send them out. Right. But there's guilt on both sides.
In the end, you are the parent and no one's going to take care of your child the way you do. Right. And so the decision that you make has to be one that's right for you and your family. I'm not a parent. I can't tell you that I could, how would I say, identify with the struggle that all parents are going to be going through in a matter of months. I can't identify with that, but I can tell you this. I'm also a smart person and I'm not stupid. I see the writing on the wall. This is going to get worse before it gets better. And Florida is proof of that. Texas is proof of that. And when you look at states like Georgia, look, California had this in the bag. They were one of the first states to get the COVID. cases. They were one of the first states to blow up and become the epicenter before New York took over. And then they were one of the first states that started taking drastic measures to bring and flatten the curve. And they were doing that. And now they're reverting back to where they were because of reopenings and because of people being laxed about, oh, well, we're the state with the lowest amount of cases reported. We don't even have cases reported anymore at this point, right? And so we're safe. We're good to go. And that mentality could potentially leave us exposed to another outbreak, which could be worse than the first one.
It's a bravado that's not actually helpful to any of us, right? Because we are low because we've been doing what we're supposed to do. And if we stop doing what we're supposed to do, then we'll be high again. You know, like.
And what about when you think about, parents that go away for the summer and take their kids with them, and then they come back and bring them to school from other areas in other states, And then
Disney World is open.
Imagine that, right? And
I'm judging. I want everybody to know that I'm judging. And I just came back from somewhere, but there were like 12 people there. I am judging you if you go to Disney World. I just cannot even imagine.
And the saddest part about all of this is that the messaging that's coming out from a White House or a government or an administration that is supposed to be setting the bar and leading by example. They have a Department of Education. They have a woman, DeVos, right now that has no business being a whatever she is. She's the secretary or something of the Department of Education.
She would never be hired as a teacher.
No, she has no business in that role. Number one, and number two is none of these two entities or offices are doing anything to push forward a narrative or a perspective that makes sense, or even suggestions for school on how to reopen. Should we have additional spaces, right? There are a lot of businesses right now that are not using their spaces. Should the city go and rent some spaces and create virtual classrooms there where it allows for proper social distancing? Do we have any facilities that we're not using that we could use?
But they didn't ask us, Tommy. They didn't ask us. They should have asked us, but they didn't ask us.
None of that.
So a big conversation that's going on in a lot of different circles of friends that I have is this idea of micro schools, right? And I saw something today that talked about the fact that school's going to open, especially in states like ours. Schools are going to open, but people who have means, right, are going to make the decision to keep their kids at home. And there's this idea of a micro school. So 1 or 2 or 3 families, depending on how many kids it is, might decide to get together and hire a tutor. And that tutor comes to one of their houses and tutors like all 6 or 8 kids or however many kids it is. And it keeps them in a small group, again, with a similar risk profile. They pay their tutor and they don't have nothing to do with the city schools, right? Or whatever schools were going on. And so what that means is that only people who don't have means to pay for private tutors are going, but still have to go to work, still have to function, right? Because they've been like marginally functioning the last couple months with their kids at home. They're going to send their kids to school, and those are going to be the kids who are exposed, right? And put at risk. And so very clearly, it, like, I swear to God, on day one, it's going to be very clear that the haves are somewhere else in a safe place of a small group of people, and the have-nots are in public school buildings praying and hoping to God that nothing happens.
And
right? And that's not equitable
at all. Be, right?
Right,
Chances
exactly.
are that it's going to be Black and Latino kids, Black and brown people are going to be those that, for the most part, because of how we are,
because they typically don't have jobs that allow them to work from home, or I should say the other way. They typically are in jobs that require them to be on premises, and so they can't stay at home and work from home, or can't afford to stay at home
to do micro schooling and bring tutors in and do all of that good stuff. So that leaves,
because to be fair, like school. I don't want to downplay school, but school is where kids are taken care of during the day and parents don't have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like it is school, but it's also childcare. It is making sure that your kid is somewhere while you're at work and you don't have to pay for it if you're sending them to public school. And so to think that in order to keep your kids safe, you would then have to pay a tutor or pay for somebody. Like I'm thinking about some, the possibility that some daycares might shift away from taking care of infants and toddlers to instead create these micro schools for school age kids, right? But you're going to have to pay them. It's not like they can't do it for free. They can't.
And that's something that just struck my mind, that for all the horrors that 2020 has brought, 2020 has been the only year in the past, I would say 10 plus years, that we haven't had a mass school shooting on record.
Man, I can't even. And that's only because schools are closed, right? It's not because I feel like I don't want to wish this on anybody, but I feel like people are waiting for schools to open, right? That's how we do here in America.
Listen, again, I'm not a parent. I cannot possibly begin to understand how desperate sometimes you are to just have a little bit of space, right? They're your kids. You can't get rid of them like I can, for example. I can take my dogs to a kennel and leave them there for a week and they'll be fine. I can't do that with my kids, right? I don't understand what it is that you go through and the despair that sometimes you feel when you just want 5 minutes to yourself and you can't have that. And that is even amplified and made worse by the fact that your kids are home every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. 300 at this point, it seems like 365 days a year. But when you think about it, this all started in February, March. What kids let go, they weren't coming back. Then summer came. School was declared over, at least for the year, and
you don't really get to go on vacation because you're not supposed to.
And so I understand, but really think about and question your government, if anything that we've learned in the past 4 months, because it's only been 4 months, ladies and gents. This is not something that's been going on for years, right?
I mean, we're in the 5th month. But it feels like a whole year. We're in the 5th month, but it does feel like I at the same time can't believe that it's already July and that it's only July. Like I feel both of those things, that it feels like the longest year on record, and also I can't believe the year is almost over.
Fall is eight weeks away.
Just crazy. Yeah. So, I know. So that was my note about the schools. I mean, about the stores having all the back to school stuff ready and the uniforms. And I don't have any interest in buying uniforms. I think one of the things I feel deep in my heart, especially here in Connecticut, is that, again, we have this false bravado that we're all good here in Connecticut. And so we're going to open up like normal, and school is going to be back in session, and in 2 weeks, school is going to shut down. So
I personally,
I'm trying to get ready. Like I'm just getting ready, because there were a few days before the shutdown that it felt like we were going to like reduce days or something. And then all of a sudden we were shut down. You know what I mean? Like it seemed like it was going to,
and Monday schools were closed.
Right. Here in New Haven, schools were closed on that Friday. They made the announcement Thursday night, and we just didn't go to school on Friday. And that's from the 13th was the first day that schools closed of March. Yeah. So, I think that the thing that I want to address for people, because it's how I'm feeling, it's how I'm feeling is, so like full disclosure, we here in our house are still trying to figure out what we're doing, right? I think on one hand, James is really concerned that the kids have been home, and we have not done a great job of filling in the blanks for school, right? Like I struggled so much with distance learning that I eventually gave up. And I don't feel bad about it, because I know a lot of people who gave up, but I also don't feel good about it, because I know that that's a whole half of a year that my kids are behind. Right.
Don't beat yourself up for it, because you're not an educator. You're not a teacher.
I'm not an elementary school teacher. Right. And so so it's a very challenging place to be in, again, of trying to figure out how you balance that. You want your kids to learn. Like, I have a friend who keeps saying, like, I need to school to be open because I don't want my kids to be stupid. Like, you have to balance how much you want your kids to learn and be on top of their education with how much you actually want them to be safe so that they have more years to get education. You know what I mean? And so we here in our house are trying to figure out, like, we really don't want them to fall behind, but I also really don't want them to be on the chopping block. I don't want them to be the sacrifice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want my kids to be sacrificed. I don't want any of our kids to be sacrificed. And if I have the option and the ability to keep them at home, like, I'm seriously thinking in my head that, okay, so maybe if they don't start reading this year, it's okay because they'll still be here next year to be like a late learner, right? Like,
and
like, what's the point of having an early learner who's dead? You know, like, it's just.
That's a very good point. You know, it doesn't matter if, oh, well, my child was supposed to start first grade this upcoming year and now school's shut down. Well, you can sort of kind of still, you know, practice good teaching habits at home. And then he can start first grade whenever, you know, things fully open back up in a safe way. I don't think what we're doing is safe right now.
I don't think so either.
I
don't think so either. And I think that we later will be like, this group of kids, if they're a year behind, we should be like, oh, but you were in elementary school during COVID-19. Like, like, you should be able to write that on your resume in 20 years.
Like, seriously, I was
like, I'm a child of I'm a COVID child, you know, like, I'm a COVID elementary child. And so we should just accept certain things for our kids because of this time. Like, it is a big enough deal that if it means all of our kids are a year behind, then so be it. Right.
Well, but you know, Candace, not for nothing, many episodes ago, I'm good 8-9 months ago, we were having a conversation of technology and how it's moving in the direction of online learning and things like that, and where you don't require to have a child in school for 7 or 8 hours out of the day, but that they can get their creative classes online and spend less time in front of a computer, still learning in a very creative way, the same amount of learning that they would have in the classroom. I remember having this conversation, and this situation that we're finding ourselves in is going to push that narrative even more. I
hope so.
And educators are going to have to get creative. They're going to have to YouTube style this shit. Like, get on, what's that app called? TikTok? They're going to have to TikTok this generation into education. Seriously.
Oh, gosh.
They're going to have to make it engaging, creative, use language that is hip and cool. And I know that to them, it may make them look silly and stupid. But they're going to have to get creative. Listen, if you have to start using Instagram as a means to teach people how to add 1 + 1 in first grade, then get that child an Instagram account, because I guarantee you they will learn that shit. I said this before and I'll say it now. This provides an opportunity for that to flourish. Don't be scared of technology.
I know. It's just that we have to get schools have to be on board with it, because in the last 4 or 5 months, it was just a filler, you know, oh, we just have to do it. We just have to figure this out. And now it feels like they're rushing to get back to normal. Not teachers, but administration is rushing to get back to normal. I think they should actually be using this time to think about, like you said, how to make technology the new norm, right? How to make distance learning the new norm, so that when inevitably, like, I'm just convinced that inevitably we are going to send our kids back, and within a few weeks they are going to be back home. And so I am trying to prepare for both the option of sending them in and also being ready to on a dime flip. As we close, I want to encourage people. One of the things that I think will help us the most as we go into this fall season of school, when most states, I know definitely in Connecticut, like, I'm not convinced, and I'm not assured by any of the things that I've heard that things are going to change on a dime. And so it makes sense to me that you find another family that maybe is at your school or down the street from you or something that you can connect with, and you guys can agree that when things shut down again, you guys are together. You know what I mean? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
that the isolation was really difficult in these first couple months.
Yeah, the buddy
Really,
team,
really
right?
difficult. And that if we could seriously have a buddy team where definitely you are committed to maintaining the same kind of risk profile and making sure that you guys have each other to have your kids hang out with, and then potentially to do distance learning with, to do, some, come to my house one day, we go to your house the other day. I think that I joked about that with some friends in the last couple months, but that is really, really a good idea to have it in the bag ready, like that, like a bat phone. You
Let
can
me
say,
let me
okay,
tell
schools are
you,
closed. It's you and me now for the next 6 months. So figure
you
out who that person is for you, who
you are
that
so
family is for
right. You are so right that they're going to open up schools prematurely. Kids are going to go in and they're going to be right back out.
you. Mm-hmm.
Think about it this way. When was the last time you were able to actually score a can of Lysol?
Right.
We can't
Yeah.
even get our companies that provide the products that we need to keep us safe, clean, and
Mm-hmm.
sanitary to
And
get their jobs and their shit together.
the meetings are still happening on Zoom because it's not appropriate to get together in person right
Mm-hmm.
now. Right. Again, we're 8 weeks away from school opening. So who
Mm-hmm.
knows what's going to happen? But I don't think that we're on the who knows on the downtrend. We're on the who knows on the uptrend. Right. And so you're right. It's still pretty difficult. I see toilet paper in the stores a lot
Yeah.
more lately, but I still don't see a lot of Clorox wipes.
Like I think of the cleaning aisle as the jungle, right? Like you have to go spotting things to see if you find something. I haven't seen Clorox wipes or Lysol wipes or Lysol spray or anything with the word disinfectant, even disinfectant soap.
Right.
Soap with the word disinfectant on it.
Still
In
hard to come
months.
by.
In months. Every single store I go to, I'm like, oh, maybe today's the day that I will score something. Look down the aisle. Hell no.
And nothing. So
Nothing.
I got some wipes the other day, but there were just a few. And it was still challenging me. I had to go to 2 different stores to get a disinfectant spray, and especially a spray that was not like pure Clorox, because I brought a Clorox spray home the other day, and Emery goes, "Mom, what's that smell?" I was like, "Listen, bougie kid." Like,
I was raised on bleach. You could give it to me.
yes, no, my kids are raised on the organic stuff, so like method like stuff that smells like grapefruit, not like pure bleach. So it's still pretty hard to come
Yeah.
by. I will say that I was able to get a grocery pickup order in through Walmart the other day that I was really surprised at. Like, order today, pick up tomorrow. I didn't realize that they were caught up in that way. So things are looking better, but I'm trying to figure out what are the things that I needed that I didn't have in March that I will probably need again and I still don't have, right? Like,
Yeah.
one of the things that I still don't have is an extra refrigerator or an extra freezer. And again, this thing is going to turn up again where we can't go to the store as usual as many times as we usually do. And am I going to be in a bind because I didn't get a fridge?
Yeah.
Fridges are actually hard to come by right now, but
the other thing to think about too is, at the moment, you can't find disinfectants in most places, right?
Mhm.
And if you can't find them, we're supposed to be at a point in time right now where things are normalizing, right? How can the school guarantee you that it's not going to get locked and relaxed when they can't find what they need to keep surfaces clean and sterile and disinfected, right? I'll give you an example.
That's a challenge.
I haven't been to my office in a very long time, and I'm very grateful and thankful that I've been able to work from home, which has been an amazing experience all on its own. I've had to go to the office twice. And as soon as you walk in through the door, there's some requirements by the state that they requested that businesses have. Hand sanitizer is one of them. The moment you walk in through the door, I went in back to back. One day, the very next day, I went again. The same empty bottle of sanitizer that excuse me, drinking IPA. The same empty container of hand sanitizer that was in that little dispenser, that non-touch dispenser, had been empty for 2 days.
Mm.
And I bet you if I go back, it's still probably empty. And the thing is that at some point, these products are still hard to get. And they're going to be hard to restock. And then what do? Do you start becoming laxed on things? We haven't gotten to the point in where we can fulfill an order enough to sustain the level of cleanliness and protection and disinfecting that we need adequately in a huge space like a school. So think about that as a parent when you decide whether you want to let your child go back to school.
I know, and it's just one more thing to think about. I don't think that parents aren't thinking about that. I think there's a long list of things that we are thinking about. And my whole point for tonight is to let you know that you are not alone in feeling guilt on both sides, feeling guilt in really wanting and needing your kids to go back to school, right? Like there is some guilt in us all that we actually cannot handle. As much as we love them, as much as we would do anything for them, our current culture and setup is not for all of us to be at home with our kids all day long, every single day. And so I see and honor and recognize that some of us really want our kids to go back to school. I also see and recognize that some of us feel really guilty as well about sending our kids back to school when we're so unsure. It feels like throwing them to the wolves. It feels like a hope and a prayer. Even though, there's guilt on both sides. And I just want people to know that you're not alone in this uncertainty. You're not alone in this confusion, especially if you're in a state that's planning to go full force regular school, like nothing is happening. And equally, if you're in a state that's shut down now and you're feeling some guilt about being annoyed that your kids are still at home, right? There's just a level of guilt and uncertainty that is baseline for all parents right now. And I just want to make sure that we are all recognizing that it is for all of us, so that you don't pile on top of that guilt with, I'm a bad parent. It's just, I go to sleep sometimes thinking if I send my kids back to school, does that make me a bad parent? And it doesn't, right? It doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you the parent who's making the best decision that you can make at the time with the information that you have and the resources that you have. So,
and don't forget that there are other people that are driving those decisions for you. The state is literally telling you, we're going to open schools back up and we expect that your child comes to school. Now, if you don't feel that it's safe,
which has an effect on your work, right?
Yeah.
Because your work is expecting you to come back to school because the state says you should be able to send your kids to school. So I just want to make sure that people recognize that it's not just, you're not the only one confused and guilt-ridden and unsure about what to do come, August or September, whenever school opens, and that it's really important to reach out to people in your group, right? Your neighbor group or your friend group or wherever, your district, your school. Reach out to your principal if you need to get some more information. Try to have some backups ready, even if you're planning to send your kids back to school. It is very clear to me that as good as things look in some of our districts in some of our states, we are in for a rude awakening come September. And if I'm wrong, fantastic. But if I'm right and you take this time to make a contingency plan, then we're all better for it. So
agreed.
I'm making some contingency plans, and I hope
you
that
have
you
a fallout
too.
shelter in your basement. I expect you to make a contingency plan.
I have some contingency plan.
Yes.
I spent a few dollars. I spent a few coins at the Dollar Tree today to get some school related things. Right. I'm taking some time now that I feel like my mental capacity is different than it was in March and April. I'm taking some time right now to think about what it would look like in a perfect world to be doing school. so that when it happens at the flip of a coin and the change of a dime or whatever the term is, when they close schools in the fall, that I'm ready to receive my kids back at
When the
home.
wind blows.
Right, that we're just ready to twist. So I really encourage you to have both your plan of sending your kids back to school and also your plan of what you will do when school closes again, because it's going to happen. And we can mark the words like this recording will be here. And if I'm wrong, I will come and put in the notes, I'm sorry, I was wrong, but yay, we're all good. Right?
It's better that we are wrong,
prepared
than being prepared and
not prepared and right.
And not prepared and right. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, I knew where I was going with that. But
yeah, I know.
I got you, baby.
So
you got me.
So I got you always. I got you. So, and I mean, we're still social distancing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm still here. You're still there. It just makes sense for us. Continue to do what it is that you're doing. I think it's really important that we all wear masks when we're outside. But do what you need to do for your family to keep everybody sane, because that's also equally important, right? You want to make sure that you guys are okay and you're not bunched up in the house biting and yelling at each other, which is tough. So make sure that you're doing what you can for your family. Try to push down the guilt that we all feel as parents, that you are doing what is right for your family. The best thing that you can do given your circumstance and your resources, all of that. Don't add on to the global stress that we're all feeling by piling on that parenting stress that we all put on ourselves. Take a deep breath, hug your kids, hug your spouse, and wear your mask, wash your hands, stay inside if you can. And then I'll be here. We'll be here. Reach out to us, reach out to your friends when you need support so that we can all get through this, the next couple months that we can all get through this. That's what I wish somebody would say that to me. And so I'm happy.
I feel like this is the part where I should have had a piano and I was playing. You've got a friend. Winter,
call me anytime.
Summer, fall.
Right. We can social distance on the phone. Call me anytime.
Call, and I'll be there. Yes, I will. You've got a friend. Okay. I was hiding the moment.
And I appreciate it. So on that note, thank you so much, everyone, for listening tonight. I wish you every success, and I hope that you're all safe at home. Wear your mask, wash your hands, drink your water, mind your business. That's all I got for you. That's all I got for you. So until next time. Follow us at Facebook at Breezy Moms Podcast or email us at breezymomspodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, don't stress, just breathe.